Have you had a failed manifestation? If you have tried to manifest something and it failed to manifest, then you might be giving up on manifestation and declaring that it doesn't work. But I want to encourage you to keep going. I want to share the reasons why your manifestation might have failed and also tell you how you can actually continue to manifest the very thing that you think has actually failed. It's not too late, so don't give up. Let's start by addressing something. How do you actually know if your manifestation has actually failed? Now, most manifestations do take time to materialize, and because of this, most of the time you don't actually know that your manifestation has failed because you don't know when it's going to arrive. And if you're still alive, or if the person you are trying to manifest for is still alive, then you can't say that it's failed yet if it's something that you are trying to manifest into the future. The only way that you do know for sure that a manifestation has definitely failed is that there is a deadline, or there was a deadline which has been reached and the manifestation didn't show up by that deadline. So if you or someone else didn't actually set a deadline for the manifestation, then you can't actually say that it has failed because you're still in the period of the automatic unfolding. And if there was a deadline that was set, then you could possibly argue that it was only the deadline that failed to manifest, not the actual desired thing, because you can still get your desired thing in the future. And yes, there are some things that do have a natural deadline, like specific events. Like, for example, you wanted to go on a particular event and you tried to manifest it and you weren't able to go. Now the event has been and gone and you weren't there. That is definitely a good example of a failed manifestation. But the thing is that you wanted that particular experience, but you probably didn't care all that much about the actual date in which the experience takes place. You could manifest that same experience or a very similar experience in the future. So yes, that particular experience has been and gone, but you could have something very similar again. So it doesn't necessarily mean that your manifestation has failed, that it will never materialize in the future. It's just that there was a longer time delay than you thought, and you thought that your manifestation had failed, but you could actually experience that again. So some things have natural deadlines, and some things we create deadlines for. Say, for example, you want to manifest a certain amount of money by a certain date. This is a man-made, unnatural deadline that you have just decided on because you are trying to force things, rush things, because you are feeling desperate to get what you want. But the thing is, if you were sure that you were definitely going to get the thing that you wanted, then you wouldn't need a deadline. And how can you be sure that you are going to get the thing you want? Because you have created a reverse memory, an event in your imagination of that very thing. So it's already happened. It's happened in your imagination. Now your job is to just not block it and believe that because it's happened in your imagination, it will happen in your reality. The main reason why people set deadlines is because they are physically trying to force the very thing that they desire into their physical reality because they don't actually believe it's possible. So they're just trying to rush it through so they can quickly say, I've been there, I've done that, I've tried the manifestation thing, it's one more thing I've tried, one more thing I didn't work, now on to the next thing, or now I'll give up completely. And when you are trying to manifest something, it's not the actual deadline, it's not the date you are trying to manifest, it's the experience. By adding a deadline to it, what you're trying to do is force certainty into your reality. If you could just manifest everything you wanted by a certain period of time, then you could be certain that everything would always manifest by this certain period of time. But if it was so easy to go through life like that, then we might as well just get out a book and just write our whole life in the book and just write dates of when we're going to do this and when we're going to do that. And why wait for anything? Why not just have everything tomorrow? If we could just manifest on certain deadlines all the time, why do we have to wait for anything? We can have our perfect life right now. But this isn't how life is designed. Thankfully, we are co-creators. We're not creating on our own as humans. We are co-creating with the divine, who knows everything, who knows things that we don't know. We say that us as humans are powerful creators, but it's not us who decides everything. It's us linked to the powerful creator. It's us being part of the powerful creator who co-creates the reality that we want. As humans, we can't predict the future and we don't know what's going to happen. You might write in your book in 5 years' time you're going to get married, and then tomorrow you're going to become a millionaire, etc., etc., and then you don't know how your life is going to unfold and how you're going to feel after each one of these events. Maybe after you become a millionaire, you won't want to marry the person who you think you want to marry. Maybe they would change after you come into your millions. Who knows? So you have to take life one step at a time. You can't plan your entire life out with dates and deadlines because you don't know what else is going to happen. It would not be in our best interest to be able to map out all of the dates and the deadlines for everything that we desired in our lifetime. We would end up messing it up. We would probably say something like, well, tomorrow I'm going to be a millionaire, I'm also going to get married, I'm going to move into my dream mansion, and then tomorrow comes and you physically don't have enough time to do everything that needs to be done, to get everything ready. So you need to allow for the physical time and the effort it takes to do things, and as humans we don't always take this into consideration, but thankfully our spiritual self knows exactly how to interweave all of the events that need to happen in our lives at exactly the right time for us. I also believe that we're just not motivated to do everything all at the same time. We think we want everything now, but actually there's a lot of physical effort that's involved in the process. If you're trying to plan a wedding at the same time as going on vacation, at the same time as moving house, then it's just too much physical effort that needs to go into the process. Even if you've got your millions and you're outsourcing it all, you still need to be able to manage other people and tell them what you want and make decisions about things that you want. Just because you've got more money doesn't mean to say that it takes away all of the time involved in the process for you. So they're the reasons why I don't believe in setting deadlines for things. I do believe that there are natural deadlines already on certain events in our lives, but that we shouldn't set additional deadlines that don't need to be there because we just don't know how everything is going to unfold. But let's just say you didn't set a deadline, maybe somebody else set a deadline, maybe there was a certain event that was organized that you couldn't attend and it's failed. You failed to get your manifestation by the date that you needed it. So why did this happen? Number one, you may have had contradictory thoughts. Because of that deadline, maybe this was just too much pressure for you and you kept worrying about and imagining the thing happening that you didn't want to happen, and that's exactly what happened. That's another good reason why we don't need to set additional deadlines that don't need to be there, because it puts so much pressure on us that we start worrying, what if it doesn't happen by this date? What does that mean for me? Does that mean that I'm a failure, that manifestation doesn't work, that God doesn't care about me, the universe doesn't have my back? What does it mean if it's a failed manifestation? And it's so much pressure. We actually talk ourselves out of it and imagine what we don't want. We imagine our greatest fears and then we don't get our manifestations. Number two, another reason that you may have a failed manifestation is that you might have believed that everything needed to happen naturally and things couldn't line up enough for things to manifest naturally enough for you. So what do I mean by naturally? I mean in the way that you expect things to come. So say for example that you are trying to manifest a lot of money. Maybe you were manifesting winning the lottery, maybe this week's lottery, which has a natural deadline. You've bought your ticket, you've imagined that you're going to get what you want, and you've imagined that you've won this money, and then your numbers didn't show up and you didn't manifest the money. Maybe it's because you were dictating too much where your manifestation was going to come from, when in actual fact, maybe you don't really care where the money comes from. You were dictating that it had to come from the lottery win, but maybe that wasn't the way that it was supposed to happen for you. Maybe you have a belief that money can never come to you in any other way apart from through your business. And then you are literally blocking all of this abundance because you are assuming that the only natural way that money could come to you is if you physically earned it through your business or through your job. Number three, another reason your manifestation may have failed is because it has been overridden by overriding beliefs that you have. If you have overriding beliefs that say, I never get what I want, I'm no good at manifesting, nothing ever good comes to me, then you will never be able to manifest specific things, because on the hierarchy of beliefs, you've got an overriding belief that controls everything underneath it. Number 4, another reason your manifestation may have failed is because to get one particular manifestation that you wanted, maybe another manifestation had to fail. Maybe there's contradictory manifestations that you have. Maybe you are trying to manifest spending every day at the beach, but also wanting to live in the city away from the beach. So only one of your manifestations can actually manifest on a daily basis. Number 5, the 5th reason that your manifestation might have failed is because you have a lesson to learn. My own personal belief is that we are all here for a particular purpose. We've got different purposes involving work, involving helping other people, and also involving our spiritual growth and our personal growth. And I do believe that we are destined to grow in particular ways, and that's another reason why I do believe that challenging things happen in our lives, because these are the things that help us to grow. And maybe you've got a particular attitude that isn't serving you, and this will come to light if you have this failed manifestation, because it helps you to reflect. If everything is perfect all of the time and you always got what you wanted, there would be no room for improvement, there would be no growth, and it would prevent you from manifesting bigger and better things. Say for example, you want to be $1 million business owner, you have a lot of growth in certain areas, so maybe you're trying to manifest something small, maybe it needed to fail to teach you the skills that you need to be able to run a large company. So they're the reasons why your manifestation may have failed. So you might be asking, well, should we actually set deadlines? Can we ever manifest by a deadline? I do believe that sometimes we can manifest by a particular deadline. In my experience, this hasn't been the case. I can't say that I've had 100% of my manifestations coming on particular deadlines. It puts so much stress on me that I've decided not to do it now. I believe it's better if you don't do it, and it can actually delay your manifestations, because if you are manifesting something, you are imagining something that could manifest in, say, a year's time, you could have had that in a week, and maybe you have slowed it down. And if you believe it is yours now, then you don't have to wait. You are projecting yourself into a future state, and you're not believing that you actually have it now, and you do have it now because it's in your own imagination. So you never have to wait for it. A deadline is a man-made thing. We as humans are restricted to time, but God is outside of time. So for God, deadlines don't matter. We can always still get the thing that we desire. And I actually just wanted to share a few examples with you of failed manifestations that I've had that have not manifested in the future, and also failed manifestations that have gone on to manifest even after a deadline. And as I was planning this video, I was asking my husband, can you think of anything that would manifest, that would be permanent, that couldn't be reversed? And I really couldn't think of anything, but God gave me an answer the very next day. The very next day, my son became ill with a fever, and we prayed that it wasn't coronavirus, because if it was coronavirus, he would have to have time off school, we would miss out on family events, etc., etc. So I imagined that I was getting the news and that the test results were negative. But the next day, the test results came back and they were positive. So you could say that this was a failed manifestation, but I also got an answer to my previous question that I was asking God, and God gave me the answer that yes, there are some things that we think as humans are irreversible, but in actuality, we can't physically reverse the past. We can't physically change the past. The only thing that we can change is the future, and we experience that in the present moment. So let's look at this scenario. So we got told that he had coronavirus. We don't actually know whether this is a fact or not. Somebody else told us this. We could choose to believe that no, he doesn't have coronavirus, but he was ill with something and it's just going to go away. So we prayed for him to get better, and the next day he was fine, bouncing around back to normal again. So we manifested good health for him, and he had good health. That manifested with a time delay. The thing that is actually seems to be irreversible is the test result. But we need to ask ourselves, has somebody ever had a test result that was a mistake? And the answer is yes, it happens all the time. People are told that they are diagnosed with a certain thing, and then the next day they said, actually, those test results weren't meant for you. That was a mistake. You actually don't have that thing. So that can be reversed and changed. So is there anything else that can't be reversed and changed about this scenario? Well, the rules are with the school is if you get a positive test for coronavirus, then you're not allowed to go to school for a certain length of time, and the laws of the country are that you also have to stay at home, you're not allowed to travel, not allowed to go to events. So we have some events coming up this week. We have swimming lessons. My son has a party to go to. It's Mother's Day. I wanted to see my mother. Now, these things haven't actually happened yet. The events haven't actually occurred. So could I manifest that there is a decision that's reversed, that he's got the wrong test result, and for some reason he's able to now go to these events? I could if I wanted to put the effort into that process. However, seeing as he's well, and seeing as there'll be more parties, there'll be more events to see my family, there'll be more of these experiences, there'll be more swimming lessons, then I'm not sure whether I want to invest so much mental effort into the process. It comes down to what we pick and choose to create reverse memories about. Yes, I did create a reverse memory that he would be getting a negative test result and there was a positive one, but actually I also created reverse memories that he would have a positive test result, not on purpose, but just because we are influenced by other people and society. And when you hear everybody talking about coronavirus is everywhere, everybody's got it, even if they don't know it, everyone has it, everyone's sick with coronavirus, this person is all off school with coronavirus, then you start making contingency plans, you start having scenarios in your head where you think, okay, I have to drop this child off, how am I going to get the other child to school? If this one's got coronavirus, who needs to be where at certain times? So you start to plan for the negative event, which unfortunately we do as humans. We have a plan B for a scenario, and I probably had more of these reverse memories for the negative planning than the positive planning, which is not nice to admit, but it is the truth of the situation. It's sometimes easier to plan for the worst and try and manifest the best. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. If you're spending so much of your mental energy planning the worst, then that's probably what's going to happen. And in this scenario, it did happen. So I'm not claiming that I am a perfect manifestation being, that I always get my manifestations. I have failed manifestations like everybody else, but because I have been able to manifest so many of the big desirable things and the way I want to live my life generally, then that has motivated me to put more of my mental energy into manifesting things that I want rather than things that I don't want. But I'm still human, I still end up manifesting things that I don't want. Hi, it's Future Kath here. I'm just interjecting into this recording just to give you an update on the situation as it unfolded after the event. So what happened was, the law was that you could wait 5 days and do another test, and if that test was negative and the following day, then you could be free to go out. So we did a test just before the weekend. It was negative, so we got our manifestation. There was a time delay, but we did get our manifestation in the end. We got that negative test result early, which means we could stop the self-isolation earlier than planned, and we were still able to go out at the weekend, and it was beautiful sunny weather, so we were all so grateful that we could go out as a family at the weekend. And just 3 days later, the law of the country actually changed so that nobody has to test when they get symptoms anymore. Nobody has to self-isolate. It's all completely gone. We don't have any need for testing or self-isolation at the moment, which is fantastic. So that just shows you how you can manifest the results that you want, but you can also manifest that you don't have to worry about having that in the future because the laws are completely changed. So we did end up getting what we wanted. There was just a delay, as there is with most manifestations. So it had appeared that my manifestation had failed in the first instance, but ultimately we got our manifestation. But now I've shared a scenario with you about how I've had a failed manifestation that actually I could still reverse if I choose to. But I want to encourage you. I want to share some quick examples of manifestations that they failed to manifest, but they've actually been reversed. One example that I have shared before in previous videos is planning permission. We applied for planning permission in our garden. We were told, no, you don't have the planning permission. You're not allowed to appeal. The case is closed. And I reversed this in my imagination, and then the decision was reversed. When we were moving to another country, we had to sell our house. We had a sale lined up at the point where we moved house, and then we moved into our rental house and the sale fell through. And then the law stated that you're not actually allowed to move house during the pandemic. You're not allowed to have any house viewings, and we had a house that we really needed to sell. But I continued to believe that everything would be fine, and that we would sell our house, and that we wouldn't have these double payments to pay on 2 different houses. And what actually happened was, somebody that had previously gone to view the house, who really wanted the house but they missed out on the house, they decided that they still wanted to buy the house, and they put in an offer and it went through. So we still managed to sell our house in the middle of a pandemic, despite the law saying you're not allowed to have any house viewings. I've had experiences where I needed to manifest a certain amount of money by a particular date. That date hit, I didn't have the money, I still had the expenses to pay, like for example on my business, and I'm thinking, what am I going to do? And then I've realized that my expenses were less than I predicted for some reason. I had a rebate, I had a refund here, and somebody didn't do the work that we planned that they would do, and then I didn't have to pay that contractor here and there. So the expenses were reduced and I still managed to pay all of my bills on time. Another example is, and this scenario has actually happened twice, my husband applied for a job. I prayed that he would get the job. He was given an interview. For whatever reason, he decided to pull out of the process and tell them that he didn't want the job. And a month later, the job has come back again. He's decided he's actually going to go for the job. He applies for the job and he gets the job. And that has actually happened twice. So even if you've been told you don't have the job, or even if you pulled out of the process, it's still not too late. It's not too late for that job, or it's not too late for the job that you're supposed to have. So it's not too late for your manifestations to materialize even after a deadline has passed. You can revise the situation. I have a video that shows you how to revise the past, revise the memory of the past so that you can get what you want in the future. And science has actually proven this now. Science has proven that what you observe changes physical reality. So in this experiment, they had somebody close their eyes so they can't see the particles flying towards the board, and just before they hit the board, they had them open their eyes so they can see the particle. And what that experiment actually showed is that these waves were always particles, that they weren't waves when they started the process. As soon as somebody opened their eyes, they had always been particles. And this is how you actually change something in your present reality, even if you think something irreversible has happened in the past that would prevent you from ever getting what you want in the present. So here's a way that you can actually do that by creating a reverse memory. And in this reverse memory, you have always had what you want. There has never been a time where you haven't had what you want. Yes, it sounds delusional, but you have to be delusional to be able to manifest effectively. So if you want to be able to manifest effectively, here are some mistakes to avoid. So unless you are very new to manifestation, don't ever tell somebody that your manifestation isn't working, because that will halt it in its tracks. It's much better to admit that you are frustrated and impatient because you haven't yet seen your manifestation appearing in your physical reality, rather than saying it has failed, it's never going to come, because that is a belief that will manifest. It's totally fine to be frustrated. That is a very valid emotion. There is absolutely nothing wrong with having emotions. Emotions don't mean that we are going to manifest just because we are having a particular so-called negative emotion. You can have a belief that something is going to come in the future and still be frustrated that it's not here just now. I have felt like this numerous times and things have still manifested. It will not stop your manifestation by by getting emotional. What will stop your manifestation is imagining something opposed to what you want in your imagination. So if you're saying, oh, I'm so frustrated, but I still believe it's going to come, that's fine. If you're saying, I'm so frustrated, I'm just so frustrated, it's never going to come, I never get what I want, people are always doing this to me, this always happens, I never get this, then that is what will manifest, because you are starting to predict the future. So after me having said all of this, maybe you still have objections, maybe you still don't fully believe in manifestation. Is there a way to prove that all of the things that you desire will definitely manifest? I can't actually prove that all of the things that you desire are definitely going to manifest, because you could be blocking these with your belief system. But I personally have enough evidence that manifestation has worked for so many things in my own life that I now believe that the probability that I am going to get what I want is very high. So what have I got to lose? I'd rather go through my whole life excited that I am going to get what I want, rather than miserable because I never get anything I want. And I've heard so many of other people's stories about what they have manifested that I am now fully invested in the process. Yes, it can be difficult to believe, but I encourage you to start off small. If you don't really believe in manifestation, if you've not got the confidence to prove that it works for you, start off small. Start by things that would give you a nice boost, but that you're not really invested in one way or another. I've got another video called How to Manifest on a Time Crunch even after the deadline has passed, so go and check that out. And I've also got another video that I think you will get benefit from, which is 10 surprising signs that your manifestation is coming true. And I have a free manifestation milestones board pack for business owners in the description below. And I would love to know, have you ever had a failed manifestation? A lot of people don't like to talk about this, but I think, yes, let's be open. Let's share these things with other people, because we can discuss it and we can come to our own conclusions and really help us to decide what our own belief systems are. So leave me a comment below. Which manifestations have failed for you, and how did you know that they had actually failed, and why do you think they failed? While you're there, like this video, subscribe for more, and now it's your turn to go and put your stamp on the world.